Welcome again. February the 5th, well, what a powerful positive shift that was about 24 hours ago when Venus entered Aries, followed very shortly after by Jupiter turning direct. Within a couple hours, you see 9:40 a.m. and 7:57 roughly a.m. in Greenwich time that was. So Venus entering Aries, this is a big shift naturally. This, and Venus is so bright right now in the sky. It's the prominent evening star. Whenever you look up there towards the area where the sun would be in the late afternoon, short after sunset, that's where Venus is right now, coming really close in between Earth and the sun, soon to turn retrograde for a few weeks. So this is kind of the culmination of the evening star period we're in Aries. Aries Venus knows what she wants. She has a very clear idea of what suits her and what not, which is a good thing. I mean, it's important to choose what makes us happy and what makes us content and at peace and in a positive overall mode. So it is about really getting out of that Piscean energy we have been in for the last few weeks, of just kind of soaking it all up and enduring it to some degree, allowing to deeply feel and be empathic. Now this has changed. Now we are really more self-centered and do the right thing for ourselves, which is super important, because the more we are doing this, the more we are helping others to do the same. And if everybody is doing that, then the world would be at a peaceful place, I would say. The moon, by the way, as these two changes happened in Taurus, in Venus sign, in a waxing mode here, actually approaching the waxing half moon, which is pretty much right now as I speak, which is a very dynamic forward motion moon. So overall we have this really positive energy which is just being activated. And sure enough, also on the bigger scale, on the bigger arena, there were some really positive news. Just think of RFK Jr. as I predicted. He was, I don't think it was the final vote, but at least in that smaller setting, that first important step has been has come out in his favor. I guess 13 against 14 or something, really unbelievable, but it was meant to go that route and it will continue on that trajectory, trust me. So from poison to gold, turning poison into nectar, this is really the title I gave this episode. And that is what we are experiencing right now. We are allowing to deeply experiencing what is not right, but we are able to turn it all around, really re-label it, re-experience it. And if we come from a different place of not of victimhood or suffering and blame and all of that, but from a place of honoring existence the way it is, taking everything as a gift and an opportunity. So it is taking charge of life. That's what really is, and that's what Aries is in a big way. Now, it is interesting that this degree here in the fractal for the world, for the whole planet chart, for the Greenwich, at 20 in the 25th degree of Aquarius is where the moon was just a few days ago, when the lunar nodes shifted backward into hexagrams 36 and 6. That was when the nodes crossed from over the 2815 mark, which was really a big shift too. You can probably remember it was on January the 30th, actually, which was just in a lineup of a few really powerful shifts. There was the beginning of the Chinese New Year on the 29th, the year of the wood snake. And as I said repeatedly, the snake is shedding skins. Expect that to happen in a personal and in a collective way this year. This is a big thing. And it's the wood snake after all. Wood is a dynamic element. It's actually the only one which expands, which grows. It's very strongly linked to the animate nature. So it has that creative potential of change, of growing in the right direction. And then short after that, Pluto entered hexagram 41. That was here, Pluto crossing the 2-degree mark here. 41 is defeat, but which means this has to be understood in its right way. It's a great opportunity if we lay low, we allow everything to flow towards us. That's kind of that surrender to life, allowing things to be the way they are, basically, and making the best out of it, because Pluto particularly has that ability to really go through a metamorphosis and the transmutation. It's one of these planets which has to do with the very deep layers of our reality. So that was a big shift then, pretty much within hours after the Chinese New Year, and then that nodal shift which I just mentioned. And finally, last but not least, again just a few hours later, was when Uranus turned direct, all happening 29th and 30th of January. So that laid the base, and now with this Venus Aries ingress, we're evaluating that lunar node change. Now 36 is darkening of the light, and 6 is conflict, which means here it is in the last part of Virgo till 28:15 to be exact, here in this section. 6, a conflict, which is the necessity to confrontation, to speak your mind and bring it into the open, what is bugging you, what is not in balance, and allow for that friction to be there. This is kind of the way we can handle that darkness, which hexagram 36 is on the other side. Darkening of the light, it's called. The light is hidden deep under the earth, that's the symbol. And it catches up here with Neptune. It's a deeply esoteric, deeply introvert energy also, which really resonates with all the unexplained and unresolved, unknowable unknowns. So it is that sphere of deep mystery, darkness, and naturally darkness in all its colorations. Also the very negative things come in there, of control, of tyranny, all of that confusion and manipulation, all the really dark things of the Piscean energy, of sneaking in without being recognized. All of that has to be exposed, and that is what the South Node, where we really bring in our assets, which we have already, what is defined, what is given, and this is where we are going, what we are facing, what we are, in the sense, transmuting over these next few weeks into, I guess it's about the end to the early April, end of March time. I could look it up again. You're probably curious. Let me see. Just takes a second to find the exact date when the lunar node moves through 22, 37 and 30 seconds. That is 1/64 of the zodiac. Each of the hexagrams is 5 degrees, 37 minutes and 30 seconds. That is the fractal, if you divide it. So the lunar node will cross that place actually not before, you won't believe it, all the way into May the 14th, June the 14th actually, June the 14th. So this is a long stretch of really feeling that inner, that big conflict, that darkening of the light, that crisis, really, that is the word we get out of the human design system for this segment of the zodiac. Crisis, darkening of the light. Yes. Now it is interesting, and I did a video on that where I said this would be that whole stretch into June where we would make progress through the confrontation and the real experience of that crisis. And it is Jupiter in hexagram 35, which has been here since December and just now is for a couple weeks retreated into the earlier hexagram, coming back soon, actually on the 11th, back into this hexagram, and will be in here till mid-April, that for sure. That's the one which kind of first moves on in that sense. But that combination, those two placements, they are what's called a channel in the human design system. It's a connection between the emotional center, the solar plexus that is, and the throat, the manifestation center. So it gives us a way to express our emotions in a very particular and clear way. Interesting is that just right now, as Jupiter is not activating this hexagram, it was the 4th house cusp here when Venus ingressed Aries, which still kind of gave that energy rooting, that progress energy of moving into a new direction in a very positive and upbeat mode. 35 after all is the earth below and the sun above. It is that image of the sunrise which is coming in. So this was today. Jupiter then, as I said, turning direct. And interesting here in this chart is the pronunciation of this 24th degree of cardinal Aries and Libra, very close to the opposition here of Aries. Aries, the goddess of war, of conflict, of confrontation, of taking on that challenge, even to go through temporary discomfort and conflict and confrontation. And definitely the opposition here to the black moon very strongly was exact a day or two ago. This is exposing the shadows, really focusing on what is wrong and pronouncing it, bringing it out, making it clear, particularly also with the wounded healer Chiron here, close companion. Actually, Chiron moves toward Aries, so this will get ever more intense in the coming few weeks. This is really a super transformational phase we are in, of everything being brought into the daylight and looked at and transformed. Regardless then on the regarding, that's what I'm wanting to say. Well, this is just coming up in 3 days, and I just talked about this in my prior video on the Philadelphia experiment, because this is kind of tying into that. But on February the 7th, the new lunar node will exactly line up with Neptune. This is a super important recharge point we will get to. And this will be that immersion into the unseen on a whole new level, into the mystery and the potentials which come out of that traveling, rising to a sphere way above the physical appearances of things, and way deeper and more out there, multidimensional. Is a very powerful connection made here, giving us a new trajectory. In this context, I wanted to mention the telepathy tapes, which is a whole new understanding of autism, of these children mostly, but also adults who live really in a totally different reality. And there's this filmmaker, you can Google it, telepathy tapes. I will put a link underneath too. Fascinating stuff. It shows that this is almost all of these autistic people, they have something in common which we do not really understand, because they're literally a different species. That's how I see it, a different soul family which incarnated collectively, and they are connected with one another. That is the fascinating thing. They all have very synchronized dreams, and they can read the thoughts of their parents. Many of them do. That is part of that telepathy tape, to give that a little bit away, that they hear what people think, what people say, and that is naturally part of their if you want, their problem too, because they are way too Neptunian. Everything comes in, they have no kind of a protective shield to just stay in their own space. Everything is flooding into their being, and they have to deal with that. That's why they naturally feel overwhelmed often, and that is then also resulting in the behaviors we often see. Anyway, that is just really resonating with that Neptune. Lunar node Venus here also brings in naturally the whole compassion and rightful understanding in love, in that frequency of truly being empathic and sensing deeply what is going on. So this is the chart of Jupiter turning direct, which will be naturally valid for several months, showing how Jupiter's energy is expressing. Jupiter actually, I wanted to mention this here, the turning point 11-16, that is in hexagram 16 in the 6th line, and this is an interesting one. I thought this would be worth reading quickly. So first of all, 16, enthusiasm is kind of the drumming which invokes spring, that excitement, that rhythm which we all feel. It's kind of a bit early for that, but it definitely feels like the days get longer, at least here in the northern hemisphere, and spring is slowly coming. This is very related to that energy. Now the 6th line, the topmost line where that is, diluted enthusiasm. But if after completion one changes, there is no blame. The comment here is, it is a bad thing for a man to let himself be deluded by enthusiasm. But if this delusion has run its course and he is still capable of changing, then he is freed of error. So this really is where many people are at in this time we are in, that they are waking up of delusions, of false hopes, of all these people. They had been giving their attention to news channels, politicians, you name it. So many of these people get unmasked right now for having done and said things which never were in. They were just not walking their talk, I guess, to say it in an easy way. So this is that big changing which is happening, which is necessary. It's really a delusion which people are waking up. A sober awakening from false enthusiasm is quite possible and very favorable. And here it changes, as I said, to hexagram 35 progress. That is just where it's moving into naturally. Here we are following the wrong path. Wrong is wrong, no matter how enthusiastic we are about it. The resultant hexagram 35 shows that we learn our error and change our goals. Success is assured. Leke, that is one of the interpreters of the I Ching, is similarly certain that even someone with darkened mind, devoted to the pleasure and satisfaction of the time, can still change and achieve success. Just be enthusiastic about the correct things. That's where Venus comes in again in Aries. So it's all really a beautiful set of harmonies which are helping one another. Now, tomorrow, actually, no, it's not tomorrow, let me get that right, it is on the 8th, that is then just the day after, there will be an exact Saturn-Nessus conjunction, which has been building for a long time. Here is Saturn 1812 and here is Nessus 1812. So Nessus is the, I would say overall the pathological expression of reality, where things really go in the wrong direction, where we fall into a mental illness, into a very deep confusion and disconnect from nature, all of that. Saturn is the one which brings focus to it, gives it a body, if you want, captures it, arrests it. I keep thinking of in Neptune's discovery chart, and this is a very particular case. That was in 1846. There's a narrow Saturn-Neptune conjunction. So Saturn was necessary to detect and to arrest Neptune, bring him to recognition. There's an interesting anecdote there that even 2 centuries earlier, Galileo Galilei was watching Neptune as it was cruising close by Jupiter and its moons. He was watching, and he was even making notes about that star, but he didn't really realize that was a planet. So anyway, Neptune stayed undetected for that much longer till Saturn came and nailed him down, and actually the name of the assistant of what's his name, Leverrier, I guess, the astronomer in Berlin who finally nailed that planet down as being recognized Neptune we're speaking of. The name of his assistant is Darret, D apostrophe arrêt, which in French means arrest. So it's really sometimes existence gives you it right away. There's not much to really scratch your head about it. It's very obvious. So Saturn is doing that to Nessus, bringing it really out into the open, as visible, as perceptible, as physically manifest as it can be. Interesting, this part of the zodiac is hexagram 22 Grace, which is one of the very spiritual ones. So even though we have all these dark recognitions, we can see it in a much more expanded way of seeing that everything has its place in the universe. There's no necessity to label things good and bad, just to really recognize the polarity and choose the right side, feed what helps. In a very simple way, what we give attention to, that is growing, and that is within us and without us, everywhere in the whole world. So this is super interesting that Venus, when this will be exact, is right here at the source point of this chart. I mean, again, couldn't be much more beautiful. It really shows exactly turning poison into nectar, turning the lower metal into gold. That is the process we are strongly engaged in. The sextile from the part of fortune here to Jupiter is another really beautiful one. Now, watch this. That is the 8th of February, next Saturday, the moon at 23 here in Gemini, and the sun at 19:05 in Aquarius. Now watch the next chart. Here we have the 19 something Aquarius at the top and 25 and something on the ascendant, and that is Mercury's superior conjunction on February the 9th, which means Mercury is exactly behind the Sun from Earth's perspective. This is the culmination of the 4-month Mercury cycle between 2 retrogrades. This is really the point where Mercury reaches its highest potential, its highest it's the top of the wave, you could say. It comes out of these first 2 months of building up to and really wrapping its mind around what has to be accomplished, and now comes the moment of delivery. That is where it starts to give back in that sense, till it's again coming in between Earth and the Sun, and then moving retrograde, which will be any time between March 15 and April the 6th, I guess. So the next 3, actually more than that, 9th of February, the next 6 weeks roughly will be giving us the options to really apply what we have seen. And why do I mention these 2 degrees? Because it is exactly this energy which is being processed and analyzed and brought into a clear perception of our minds. In hexagram 49, by the way, that is here, revolution, which means it's the time when the tigers fur is changing, when it's adapting to a new environment. That's kind of the image it's coming from. It's the natural adaptation to a changing environment, to fit in and match with it again. And with that resonance with this Saturn-Nessus thing, here we have it again. You see, by that time, a day later, Saturn already has gone 7 minutes of arc ahead, as Nessus is much slower. Nessus takes about 92 years to travel once around the zodiac, Saturn 29, so 92-29 actually is quite an interesting combination of energies also on that level. But one more thing I want to point out in this chart is the moon here by that time here, 14 something Cancer, in a close conjunction with Hades and Kronos both, which is the lowest and the highest. That's the easy way to understand these two Uranian points. They go back to the Hamburg school in Germany. They are energy points, that's how I see it. They're in another dimension. They're not physical planets, but they truly have a very strong manifestation in all and every chart. Sometimes I'm adding them, there's more of those, there's 8 of those in total. I just added a few of those which are relevant right now in terms of aspects. Here the black moon with Zeus, which is all about explosive energy and electricity and very pointed and strong energy release. Here through the black moon again, this even more emphasizes that opposition to Aries. Here now flanked by not just Chiron, the wounded healer, but also by Hygeia, that is about health and well-being. So expect there's a lot of exposure and whistleblowers and people who start speaking up about all that medical interventions we were going through in the 2020, 2021, 2022 area, with all these extreme coercions, I should say, and that is all really being unpacked. Just today I saw an interview between Dr. John Campbell with Dr. Makis, the Canadian authority on all kinds of wonderful healing methods and new approaches to cancer and all of that. A brilliant man, 2 brilliant men I should say. I will put the link underneath 2 of that. It's totally the trajectory we are moving on right now of bringing it all out into the open, let it all be exposed and seen. Equatorial point here on Uranus, you bet, that's the ascendant on the equator of Earth for that moment. Yes, it will be explosive, it will be all just really revolutionary is the only way to describe it. We are going through massive upgrades, each personally and collectively. This is an accelerated evolution we're on beyond comparison. I wrote down a few words which I wanted to say in this context: mind-blowing, intense, historic, breaking walls down within and without at lightning speed. Well, thank you for listening, and again, Please give it a like or even share it and subscribe if you enjoyed what you were hearing. Love you all. Take care and really enjoy that ride we are on. It's once in a lifetime, and we will remember these times for a long, long time.